to make sure that the show, kind of divulges into all areas and issues and aspects of your life. And today with me, we have a really amazing guest who is a trainer as well and coach. And she's going to be helping me throughout the show, where we're going to be discussing regaining confidence. Please help me welcome Noshiela Maqsood. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you today? I'm so happy that you're with us.
I'm good, alhamdulillah. I'm glad to be here, as always. So thank you for having me.
Well, no, it's my pleasure. I know the work that you do and I really admire it. So I'm really, excited to get into it. But before we do, just tell us, Noshiela, a little bit about yourself, especially the work and how you help people.
So my role in the work that I do is I'm a trauma-informed coach, trainer and educator. And, my passion lies in empowering Muslim women to heal from their past experiences like emotional trauma so they can truly thrive in life. And under that comes a lot of things like self-discovery, regaining confidence, and really living a life that, I believe that we truly desire and we deserve. So that's an element of my work, but I also then empower Muslim women to take on this role of being a change maker, should they wish to, and I train them to start their own profitable trauma-informed businesses. And there's lots of things, but that's just the general outline.
Yeah, no, of course, we're going to go more into it, obviously. And I love that because I think, we look at confidence as such, a tool that, we can easily gain, but actually we can lose quite easily. And it's very difficult to rebuild. And there's lots of things that happens in our lives that even once we gain it, we can actually find it very difficult to maintain it. So that's what we're going to go into. But before we go into even some of the sort of like techniques, how would you define confidence and self-esteem? A lot of people even get it very mixed up with, a bit of arrogance, showing off. So how would you define it so that we can understand its true meaning?
So, confidence for me, even discovering what confidence is was a journey, because I used to have a very superficial understanding of what confidence is, the way a person looked, the way that we presented ourselves. It doesn't matter if we went home and had an emotional breakdown, but as long as people saw me as being okay, that meant I was confident. So, and through my own healing journey, what I've come to know deeply is that confidence is the ability to truly accept ourselves from within and unapologetically show up as who we are and being able to make life decisions that align with our highest values. And, I like that you mentioned self-esteem, because people get both things sort of confused. And even though they're interlinked, self-esteem is, really how we feel about ourselves. And under that comes other things like, our sense of worthiness. How worthy do we feel to have good things in life? So both of those things are interlinked, but the self-esteem really is how we really feel about ourselves when nobody else is there. When the doors are closed and we're at home on our own, how do we actually feel about ourselves when we drop that guard and nobody's around us?
I mean, how important is it to even have confidence? Because a lot of us, maybe we might feel that it's not really necessary. Like, how does it show up for us in life at the end of the day? So, for example, if we are, at work, or if we are mothers, or if we are just generally women, like you mentioned, Muslim women, is it really important for us to even have confidence?
I believe it's essential, because when people don't have like true confidence, then they live in the world as somebody other than themselves. And I see this with client journeys. I see this with people around me and people that I work around and with, and I come across many people in the week. I see that people struggle to be themselves. And the reason for that is because they're afraid of being judged, rejected, and sometimes they haven't had that self-discovery of who they really are, what their actual likes and dislikes are, what they are passionate about in life. And the reason for that, going deeper, is because they've never been given a chance to explore that. They've been molded into, what either society expects of them, what their spouse potentially expects from them. And even before that is, we've been fed these cultural sort of, these cultural almost instructions that we like engrave within our minds, and we live life by those. So not having true confidence impacts us in all areas. Like when we're doing our job, we'll do things that are not in alignment with us. because we don't have the confidence to say no. We can easily fall into people pleasing. We can easily have emotional burnout, because confidence is about being, and it's about embodiment, and not just the way that people see us externally.
Absolutely. I mean, I loved even what you said at the beginning when you mentioned about, awareness and accepting our true self. And that doesn't mean that we have to also have, no shortcomings and no sort of like, flaws. It means that you got the confidence to accept all of you wholly, regardless. I think that's really important. So what are the kind of things that builds confidence, and what are the kind of things that knocks your confidence?
So, there's many things in life that can happen around us or to us that can knock our confidence. And if we go back to, our younger years of growing up in our childhood, the main influence on our confidence and the way we feel about ourselves is our parents, our caregivers, and those who were nurturing us or were around us a lot in our childhood. And the significant people like also teachers, and other role models that we had. Now, that is what we essentially carry into our adult life. And if we were always told that we were not good enough, if we were always made to feel like we were not smart enough, or we didn't know what we were talking about, or, that we weren't worth anything. It was sad, but many people have been through that. And that is what we carry into our adult relationships and everything that we do in life. So, and there's so many things that are coming to my mind, like, influence of what other people say to you, but also your experiences. The experiences that we have even in our adult life can really knock our confidence. And one of the things that we're going to go on to talk about is, when people end up in relationships that aren't necessarily what they thought they were going to be, or when people end up in toxic relationships where, sometimes it could be that a partner is always picking out the faults of the other partner. So no matter what this person does, it's never good enough, or it's never, it's never enough in so many ways. So things like that can have a massive effect on a person's confidence. And I think just other general life things like natural transitions that we make, like getting married. If you've never experienced that before, we're gonna have to build our confidence to know how to navigate a new life. When a woman has a child for the first time, because she goes through not just physical changes, but also mental and emotional changes and challenges, there's work that needs to be done to almost rebuild her confidence that has been impacted through those processes.
No, that's so true. And I love the examples that you used. I mean, at the end of the day, we cannot have complete happiness, complete sadness, even complete confidence the whole way through. But if you have certain tools and techniques that can get you out of sort of negativity and things like that and build your confidence, how important is it for people to give you confidence, or for you to actually hold it yourself? Or do you think there's kind of like a balance there? Because, we do seek some sort of acknowledgement sometimes, whether it's your boss at work and that gives you confidence, or you're always winning in your exams and gaining those marks. And, but what about, when you have failures, and, how do you still maintain being confident and true and not having so much self-doubt even through negativity? Because it's so great when we have everything going our way, but when it's not going our way, it's so difficult to maintain confidence. So, what would be your sort of like, guidance around people that are constantly having, challenge upon challenge upon challenge, and then, their confidence kind of dies slowly with those challenges?
I think if we look at a deeper level, confidence, validation, and acceptance has to come from within for ourselves first. Because yes, people around us can impact the way that we feel. They can have an effect on our mood, or, and all of those kind of things. But if we truly know ourselves, firstly, secondly, we accept ourselves. And that includes, like you said, our imperfections, because we are humans and we are flawed. It's accepting those things and acknowledging that, hey, look, I've got work to do on these things, but I still like myself. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. That used to make me very uncomfortable, because as a Muslim woman, being raised in a Pakistani household, we were never taught to like ourselves. We were never taught to actually celebrate our accomplishments, or even praise our own skill set or qualities. So that can make people very uncomfortable. And this is where that real inner work has to be done, where we really self-reflect and dig deep as to why am I, if this is the case, why am I constantly seeking validation from other people? Acknowledgement, yes. Like, for example, if you worked hard or you've done things at work, you expect your boss to say, well done, or just some sort of acknowledgement, or you expect somebody who you've, made a big effort with to acknowledge your efforts. But if they don't, what happens? That's the question. If somebody doesn't acknowledge and validate it, and it causes big problems for you, then the problem isn't those external people. It's actually what is missing within, or what is the thing that you're not facing that you need to face to actually feel whole within yourself. And I think this is also when it comes to relationships, because obviously in relationships, we are very much sharing our life with somebody. Now, often what happens is people go into relationships without having this true confidence, this self-love, this self-acceptance, and they expect the other person to give it to them, right? So you need to come and save me. You need to give me this confidence, this love, all of these things that I don't have within myself. And that's when sometimes things can go terribly wrong, because that's a lot of responsibility to put on another person. So the truth is, it's about actually, what do I need to do to feel whole within myself? So anybody else in my life is just contributing to my happiness, contributing to my joy, and everything around me.
Those are really great points, Noshiela. Those are great points. And you know what? We're going to come back to that because we've actually got a first break coming up, and you've hit on quite a few things that I want to come back to. But please, whoever's watching right now, don't go away. We have this short break coming up. We're going to continue the conversation in a few moments, and inshallah, see you very soon.
Sainsbury's? Oh, we made our money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
goes into matching prices.
Remarkable, we've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's, good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising. If we're not vaccinated, we're not protected, and could get seriously ill, risking lifelong disabilities. Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's? Oh, we made our money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
goes into matching prices.
Remarkable, we've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's, good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Wellbeing Show here on British Muslim TV. So excited for this episode today, and I have such a wonderful guest with me speaking so confidently about regaining confidence. I know that, it's a subject that a lot of us think, oh, it's just easy, we just have to believe in ourselves, or we just need someone with us. But you touched on something really important before the break, actually, about relationships. And what came to mind when you were speaking is that once we sometimes get so used to a relationship, because it is there long term for a lot of us, even if it's months or years, and sometimes we rely too much on the other person, or that other person doesn't even sort of like support in with regards to sort of confidence. Now, there's a lot of women I know from coaching in my sort of like, field as well, where they kind of lose themselves sometimes as a person, especially through motherhood and being a wife and, doing the mundane stuff. And sometimes, even if they were working or not, that's not the point, but they kind of like, it's so routine and people don't realize what you go through, especially when you are going through so many changes, especially as a mom and even as a wife. It's so different in our Muslim cultures and communities that we sometimes lose ourselves, and we can't always also rely and also expect our partners to give us that confidence. We need to be able to build it ourselves, like you said, because if it's strong within, then regardless of what happens, we can always gain it back, even through adversity. So how would you kind of like, navigate through motherhood and being a wife for people that are in those situations to help them find themselves and not lose themselves when they are in those kind of situations, which, life just takes over, especially when you put your kids first and your husband first and you kind of lose yourself?
I think when you transition and you choose to have a new life, when you get married or you have children, there's a natural, especially being a mom, rather, there's a natural element of sacrifice that we can't escape no matter what happens, because the sacrifice is our physical bodies, it's our mental health to an extent, and just navigating through all of these different changes. So I think a big thing is, and it's something that a lot of women do, I did it myself as well. I didn't have this self-awareness or any of these tools at the time. I used to look at my life before. So I just think, but I want my life to go back to how it was. There was almost like a kind of in denial about, how life was going to be different now, because I now was responsible for a child. And, so it's really understanding and accepting that things are going to be different now. Because the moment you do that, and you realize I have to let go of what my life used to be, not to say that you can't get elements of that back, but it's an acceptance, radical acceptance of what the current situation is. So even if there are not many hardships and you don't go through like traumatic experiences, just becoming a mom in itself causes you to basically, even like showering in peace becomes a luxury. You're going and having a few moments to yourself becomes a luxury. And as the child ages and the stages of development, we also, as a mom, then adapt our entire routine and everything about ourselves to this child or children, rather, in many cases. So that first thing is actually accepting where you are and the fact that, life now is different. There's women that I've coached that, I can think of one case in particular, without sharing the details, and she said, look, I want my freedom back. I want my freedom back. And even though my life is good, things are good, I can't seem to shift away from what my life used to be. And there's a part of this person that was very much in denial of their current situation. And another thing with regards to those changes is that we have to now envision life moving forward with what we have now, and really like almost, I know it's going to sound a bit cliche, but practicing intentional gratitude. And a big part of confidence I know a lot of people don't talk about, and this is from my own personal journey and the women that I've coached, is I believe that, unshakable confidence comes from trusting God. And one of my most favorite hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is where he says, amazing is the affair of the believer. And in it is, there's always good for the believer. And if hardships befall him or her, then he is patient. And if there's happiness or blessings, then you are grateful. And when we learn these things, it's about embodying it so we can actually start to live life from that lens, because that in itself is a whole mindset shift. And one of the reasons why I truly believe, like, women like myself and other women that I, in my circle, keep going in life, and they embody confidence, is because they trust in Allah. Their conviction is in Him and they trust His plan. So they never feel like they're going to be in despair or they're going to be left alone. I just wanted to mention that because I know that a lot of people don't talk about this element when it comes to confidence.
Yes, no, absolutely. No, I absolutely agree with you there. And I think that's so important as well. I think, what you mentioned as well, just reflecting, is that a lot of the times we have these expectations and we need to not just constantly look back or even forward to unhealthy situations. We need to be present and, like you said, be grateful. And life has to sort of like change and transform through different sort of circumstances. So when you were younger, when you were single, to being married, to even being married and then having children, and then after that, you've got different types of relationships. And I think, we talk about toxic relationships, and I don't want to just talk about this from a romantic point of view, because I think that we have friendships, we have families, we even have work colleagues, and they all play and have a big impact on the way in which we show up. And that is also around confidence. And we use this term toxic so loosely as well. So how would you define, toxicity in, various relationships? And I think family toxicity in relationships is probably more than even some of the romantic ones. And we don't even realize it because we get used to it. So, that's sometimes, that sort of, we have narcissistic, parents even, we've had siblings that don't really get along. We've got so many relatives around us that we cannot get away from that, play such a huge part. And a lot of it is more cultural than it is religious. So, how does, the impact of having toxic relationships, how to recognize that and try and pull away without being, rude? Because a lot of the time it's like, you have to have respect when they show up. You have to even be in their presence. It's not as easy as other cultures and say, that's it, we're just closing our door, we're closing our phones. Yeah. We cannot do that a lot of the times. We have to still navigate around it. So what would be your advice on those kind of like, so-called toxic relationships?
Yeah, I think there comes a point when you actually realize what toxic relationship is in any sort of area, whether it's siblings, family, whatever. Because before that, that's all we knew. So there comes a point where you've either seen like what red flags are or learned about toxic relationships, because there's so much knowledge now being shared online. But I think it's really understanding, what does being around these people or this person do to my nervous system? What does it do to my emotional? What does it do to my emotional state? What does it do to my confidence? How does it make me feel? And yes, even though, a big part of like ownership and working on ourselves is down to us, but that does not mean to say that other people don't impact the way that we feel. So when it comes to close relationships, like parents, siblings, and very close people, obviously we as Muslims, we never encourage people to break ties and not basically have those relationships, but it's very respectfully creating healthy boundaries. And those healthy boundaries could be that if there's a family member that you used to speak to every single day for a lengthy amount of time, that would impact your mood naturally, then you just cut that time down, or you then start to lead the conversation. But also, I think, a big part of understanding people in our lives is understanding why we behave the way we do and why we think the way that we do. So as a trainer of NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming, one of my most favorite things to teach my students, student coaches and clients is the NLP communication model. Now, the NLP communication model basically teaches us how we intake any external information around us, and the process that our mind does or undertakes to filter everything that's happening around us. And that process basically happens so the filtering process of all this information happens via a channel that is very much dependent on a person's life values, the decisions a person makes, a person's upbringing, a person's their sort of concept of time, space, energy, all of these things. So what I'm trying to say is that we all are operating from our own lens of the world. So, a lot of women struggle with this whole thing about toxic relationship when it comes to their mother-in-laws. Now, if you look at your version or your model of the world, and you look at your upbringing, what your life values are, the era in which you were born and raised, and the things that are so important to you, and then you do the same for the person that you struggle with, for example, here, the mother-in-law or the mom or whoever, and you actually look at that process of their upbringing, what matters to them and their values, and their attitude towards life. And maybe even we can start to notice our own insecurities and theirs too. What that instantly does is it helps us to see that we can all be in a room, but we will all have a different perspective on something that took place. So really is understanding. And when we understand people's behavior, it doesn't mean we excuse any toxic or bad behavior. It just means that from this point of understanding, we can now know that people are doing what they know. People are doing what they've been given. They can't give what they haven't got. So that understanding, I truly believe that knowledge is power. So what that does is it puts you in a position of being able to control how you now take another person's behavior. Do you take it personally, or do you just understand that's them? And then from this point, you're able then to create these healthy boundaries respectfully. And I think the thing with boundaries is people think, oh, I've got to be like, from this place of anger, I'm drawing a line or I'm creating a boundary. It very much doesn't have to be that way. A boundary can also be a sort of a soft barrier in which you choose what you allow into your space, mentally, physically, emotionally, and also what you're willing to tolerate and not tolerate. So I just think those things are very important when it comes to understanding and trying your best to maintain relationships that are close to you.
Absolutely. I love that. I love what you said, especially when you started off about, how to understand what is it that you're tolerating and how does it impact your nervous system? Because a lot of us don't realize that we can, be drained in energy. We can be drained in so many different ways, mentally and physically, and it does have an impact on us. And that's one way of noticing that is not a healthy relationship. So we don't have to label it as extreme or whichever spectrum of the toxicity. But again, Noshiela, you've given us so much food for thought. I hope everybody that is watching so far takes note. If you just tuned in, please do rewind. We are coming on to our second break. Do not go away. We're almost halfway there, but we will be back very shortly. Please stay with us, and inshallah, we'll be seeing you very, very soon. Have a cup of tea. Don't go away, and we'll see you.
Sainsbury's. Oh, we made of money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising. If we're not vaccinated, we're not protected, and could get seriously ill, risking lifelong disabilities. Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's. Oh, we made of money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Wellbeing Show here on British Muslim TV. So much information so far. Please do take note. And if you want to watch from the beginning, make sure you rewind and you can watch us on the Facebook page or on YouTube, the entire episode from beginning to end in your own space and time as well. Noshiela, before the break, there was so much that I wanted to ask you, but we're going to continue with that before we move on to the next part, actually. And, obviously there's this thing about, the way in which we actually have interactions with people, kind of who we attract, and why does that come up? Because a lot of the times we might have, whether it's our, it shows up in our workspace or in our families or friendships, that they say they have the same traits and we kind of attract that. Is there such a thing as like, we kind of attract who we are, or is it because of unhealed wounds? Can you explain a little bit more about that, please?
So I don't believe that we attract who we are. I believe that we energetically attract, in our adult life, the relationships, especially romantic relationships, are a direct reflection of our childhood. And what I mean is that as adults, what we're constantly doing is we're recreating our childhood in so many different ways. So when it comes to selecting a partner, even though you don't consciously do it, we're selecting somebody who reminds us of either a parent or caregiver that we didn't get maybe our emotional, physical needs met by. So in our adult life, we're trying to it's like filling that void. And this, the only way to kind of navigate through that and deal with not having the same repetition is actually healing from, what you said, those emotional wounds, and healing from those experiences. So when we are selecting or when we are attracting people in our lives, it's aligned with the higher version of ourselves. Because something that we see so common is, people are very empathic, end up with people who are very narcissistic, because the empath has this deep desire to want to help people. Now, if the empath is unhealed, he or she will always want to fix the other person. And somebody who has very strong narcissistic tendencies will always want to be the victim and want to be rescued. So that's the dynamic that we often see. And I just think it's important to reflect on those things, because yes, we can look at, what happened and who did what, but it's always about looking within and seeing, what was I seeking? What void was I trying to fill when making those choices or those decisions?
I think that's very important, kind of learning the attachment styles and, like you mentioned, your childhood. It could happen, like you said, unconsciously, and it's just not even have to be that toxic or extreme in the way. It's just that if you did have a parent, for example, that was not giving you enough attention or wasn't always there, then you're always seeking for that and looking for that. For example, that may show up in the fact that you might choose someone who's always running away or, emotionally unavailable, for example. So then you might create that. So it's better to understand, why you're attracted to that person. And it's so much more than, the surface things that we look at. So when we understand the way in which behaviors are, then we can understand our behavior more so than the other. And that's when it changes is within us. So I think what you said there, again, is quite profound. And that's when, we have to seek that self-development. I know people are so resistant to speaking to counselors, coaches, therapists, and things like that. But honestly, when you have someone, and I'm not saying that everybody has the actual ability, but go and research and speak to different people, and you will gain something. There is always something, even if it's not the whole picture, that you will find that you will actually have that awareness or that different type of thinking that will transform you. So I think what you said is absolutely spot on, especially when it comes to confidence, because, the one thing in our faith especially is, marriage especially is half your deen, and we spend most of our lives, especially after studying, is, chasing that and trying to maintain that. And if that doesn't work out, or if that doesn't happen the way you want, then that really does, make us feel in a particular way, especially as women. And then as much as we talk about narcissism, I want to talk about people that are also kind of like, very much on the opposite side of, not empathetic, but at the same time, there are very much people pleasers out there, for example, who actually do want to gain that, like you said, validation before And these kind of things as well, like, you know, whether it comes from a traumatic experience in the past, I mean, it can really, really make a difference to yourself. So again, how does the impact, for example, of trauma knocks confidence and makes you either sort of like, you know, withheld within yourself, or become a people pleaser, or become even the kind of, you know, bully that bullied you, for example, because there's so many different ways in which people come out of these experiences, not necessarily always even a victim mentality. So how can we rebuild from sort of past experiences that were negative?
So I think the first step is really understanding your behaviors, and then, you know, trying to, and I think this is where it's important to seek help and support, is get to the root cause of those. So when we talk about people pleasing is a trauma response. And that comes from either not being heard as a child, not being valued. So this child then will do all the things that they think that mom or dad or caregivers want them to do in order to be liked. And often what happens, that, you know, that works. So then the parents will praise this child or these children for doing things to seek that acceptance, that validation. Now, this is very harmful when, you know, children grow into adults and they carry on this pattern in their relationships, romantic relationships, in the workplace. And, you know, that is a direct reflection of the lack of confidence and self-esteem this person has, because people that people please will do it to the point, especially if they're chronic people pleasers, they'll do it to the point where they become so emotionally and physically burnt out that they refuse to say no. And it's about looking what's behind that. Why am I so afraid to not give in to what other people want from me, especially if I don't agree with it, or I don't want to do it, or I don't want to be a part of that? Why is it that I struggle to say no? And often it's because people want to be liked. People want to be noticed, or, you know, or they want this external validation. And when that doesn't happen, they don't know who they are. Their whole existence becomes formed around what other people think of them. And to break out of that is very consciously, it's a conscious effort to notice that, hey, you know what, when somebody's asking this from me or expecting this from me, but I don't even have the capacity for it, you know, what's coming up for me? You know, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I said no? And it's intentionally practicing saying no. And it takes me back to a client that I worked with. And one of the taskings that I gave her between our sessions was that she had to consciously, in the way that felt right for her, because that's important, to say no to things that she just couldn't manage. And I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but it's intentionally, in a respectful way, refusing things that are just out of your capacity.
You know what, when you were talking, what came to mind, which we didn't actually speak about before, actually, is the people pleasing part, was actually social media. And I think apart from, you know, getting that from, you know, day-to-day people, there are people that are living for their followers. And I know that in business, it's important to a certain extent, but sometimes you can lose your identity and your confidence is only there with the amount of likes and clicks and those kind of validations and acknowledgement. And it's actually quite dangerous that we're living in that kind of world right now. And the more you get the attention, the more you get certain things, it feels like as if you are actually working and serving solely for them, when it should be you are, you know, I would say, for example, in my pages, for me to, you know, give information and give kind of like, you know, sort of like advice or guidance or whatever it may be, not for me to follow now what they think. So if, for example, if they didn't like what I say, I must change my ways, when actually I should really continue, unless of course it is like, you know, breaking some sort of rule or guideline, then only I would actually think twice, for example. So what's your thoughts on that? Because I think that's a much more dangerous pattern of gaining confidence through people that have absolutely no reality in your life, even if they are there to gain those things. Because now it's like, you don't need a business card. You don't even need any kind of like sort of website. It's just, you know, the numbers game. You have so many followers and that's it. You are validated.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because I see this in the business world. I mean, the coaching industry, and to be honest, anyone that's running any type of business online. And the thing is, I'm not going to say that, oh, it's not a nice feeling to be acknowledged. You know, we all like a little bit of validation, to be truthful, but not to the extent that if it's not there, it makes a big difference to your life. Because what people need to realize that social media isn't a true reflection of a person's entire life. There's things that we will not share on there that we've experienced. There's things that we will share when we share what we want people to see, basically. Now, if we then, as people in business or Muslim women or whatever, start to thrive off what people see of us, it becomes a bit of a fame game, right? And when, for example, if for any reason you end up losing engagement or followers, they attach their worthiness to the amount of followers that they've got. They attach their worthiness to how many likes or comments or whatever they've got. And the thing that I always say to my student coaches is that you are the brand. Like, you are the brand. And what I mean by that is, it's not just like, as in pictures and selfies, and like, this is very much in, and we all do it to an extent. What I mean by that is that you have to be an embodiment of what you preach. You have to walk your talk. And if you are genuine and sincere in what you do, that's going to be a given. So whatever you're preaching, you're living it. So and it's not about making your life about social media, because you are the brand wherever you go. You are the brand when you step into a gathering. You are the brand wherever you go. And people are drawn to you because of how you are as a person. So, and that takes this pressure away from having to have social media picture perfect and this confidence. Because, okay, when all these trends come out and you don't basically keep up with them, what does that mean? That you're not good enough? Does that have such an impact on your confidence that you stop showing up for yourself? And I think the biggest thing is, in anything that we do in life, is having this unwavering self-belief and working ourselves up to this point where we have unshakable confidence. And I think a huge part of that is our mindset. And
well, Noshiela, again, you've given us so much, and we are coming on to our final break. We will continue with that conversation, and it's been, again, so insightful, so many sharing of gems already, and we don't have much time, but we have enough, so please don't go away, as we will be back in a few moments, giving you the final part of the episode, plus we'll give you more on gaining confidence.
Sainsbury's. We made our money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising. If we're not vaccinated, we're not protected, and could get seriously ill, risking lifelong disabilities. Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's. We made our money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the final part of this episode, the Wellbeing Show here on British Muslim TV. I'm here with Noshiela, who is giving us so much information regarding gaining confidence and speaking about different scenarios that we have in life, which can, bring us up into having so much confidence and knock us down, as well as trying to regain it. So there's so much that we've discussed. And hopefully you've had a chance to, see most of it. If not, again, you should be able to see it on the YouTube or the Facebook page where you can watch the entire episode. Now, when it comes to Muslim women, there is such a thing as being confident, but actually it can also be seen as something that we should not have because of the fact that we need to maintain and behave in a particular way. And confidence doesn't mean you have to be outspoken, nor does it have to be out loud. But a lot of times, I think people misrepresent and misunderstand the word so that you can be still quietly confident. You can still be having that awareness. You can still show up really smart, presentable, and even have a voice. And there's nothing wrong in Islam for women to have a voice. As long as it's there speaking in line with, the Islamic values and the way in which that we believe in. So how do Muslim women have confidence, maintain confidence, and also kind of like do this, especially in the Western society where it's not looked down upon by other Muslims, because, we are kind of living here, but it doesn't mean that we're following in a different sort of line?
That's a great question. And I think, as Muslim women, it's knowing what our intentions are and that being enough for us. Because if we then go down this road of proving why we're doing what we're doing, proving it's like that becomes a full-time job. And some of the things that you mentioned, there's a lot of misconceptions around confidence because people can mistake confidence as arrogance, or the common thing is, who does she think she is? What does she think she's doing? And the reality is, the way I see it is, being who you are unapologetically, knowing that you only have to answer to Allah. And that is an anchor within ourselves. And when I think about confidence, there's a few things that come to mind that, about being humble, that, we shouldn't praise ourselves, that we should have this sort of, I'm a common, I'm a doormat sort of mindset. I'm at your service and I'm nothing. And even though like people do that in the name of being humble, the reality is that Allah created us for so much more. Allah created us to basically use our voices for good, use our limbs for good, use our talents and our unique qualities that He has blessed us with for good. And this, regardless of where we are on our journey, because it is a journey and, we'll have our ups and downs. It's about actually three things that come to my mind when it comes to, any type of confidence and mindset thing is, knowing Allah and your opinion of Him, also knowing yourself and your opinion of yourself, and then your opinion of other people. And when we tap into those three things, we stop trying to prove ourselves. We stop trying to convince other people to accept what we're doing. And we really step into a level of confidence that doesn't require us to seek permission for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think also surrounding ourselves in certain sort of spaces and environments make a huge difference. And, those are the kind of things that does make an impact on our confidence is also your environment and your mindset. So again, like choosing positive, circles in our lives. I mean, how important is that in order for us to sort of, have that sort of outlook where we've got people also, telling us when we are also stepping out of bounds in the correct way, as well as, giving us that kind of like, support when we need. It's not acknowledgement and validation, but I think it's support. And even with having true friends that don't drain your energy, but also listens to you, as well as gives you that critical advice that you require to build, grow, and develop. I mean, how important is that? And And because a lot of times we just stick with people because we've known them for a while and it's a safe space, but we need to find real people around us. And sometimes it means letting go of people that you've known for a while as well.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important because, even the Prophet ﷺ tells us that you are the company that you keep. Yeah, and in the world of psychology and self-development, there's the whole concept of, analyzing the 5 people that you speak to the most and that you spend time with the most, because you become like them. And if you notice that when you've been around certain family members for more than usual, you'll realize that you're picking up their language. You're saying things that they say. You start to behave like them, even if it is the smallest things like gestures and the way that they speak, because we're constantly being impacted by those around us. That is so important. And something that I wanted to touch upon that you mentioned was around having people that will actually call us out. I know many people. I have friends, but there's not very many people that I communicate with often. And that might sound a bit sad and boring, but the people that I choose to communicate with often are those that put me in line, that will tell me, remind me of my prayers, that will tell me, you need to fix up, or guide me. And also, they become a safe space, and I do for them also. And, in NLP, we have this concept of modeling. And if we look at, the best role model for us, even though it seems so far-fetched, is the Prophet ﷺ. But if we look at confidence, and we, even in today's day and age, we're able to model people that we perceive as confident by seeing the way that they sit, the way that they stand, the way they speak, the way they present themselves, the way they, their appearance. Because we always need somebody to, and this is not from a validation type of thing, but almost somebody that we find successful, that we can emulate and work towards gaining that level of confidence.
Absolutely, absolutely. We do have time before the end of the show, but we are coming towards the end. I don't want to wait till the last minute in case I forget. So if anybody wants to reach you, follow you, or work with you, where do they find you? And can you share those details now, please, Noshiela?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and it is just my name, which is Noshiela Maqsood. I have a website, which is www.noshielamorecoaching.co.uk. Rebranding at the moment, but that's where you can find me, and just have a look at the kind of work that I do, and reach out if there's any way that I can support you, inshallah.
Definitely. And I do actually, urge people and endorse you for this, because, a lot of people don't understand coaching and how it can really help with, any kind of challenge, mindset and adversity, and to have women like yourself to be in the community that is of great value. So just sell yourself a little bit and tell me, what kind of value and what kind of workshops and programs do you run, so that if people want to know how they can work with you, not just by contacting you, but just by your work itself, and what kind of transformation of looks like working with you.
So the thing that I'm known for the most is actually helping people regain their confidence, and that in itself is a process of empowerment that happens via my emotional healing program. And on that journey, it's really about understanding a person's not their family history, but their history in terms of their childhood, the things that happen in their life, and then taking them on this journey of actually healing and dropping, shedding years of anger, sadness, fear, shame, and all these things that stop us from being our most authentic, confident, and empowered selves. And so that's one of the things that I do. The thing that I'm currently doing at the moment that I love a lot is training people in neurolinguistic programming. I train them in trauma-informed coaching, hypnotherapy, and timeline therapy. So the modalities that I use. So these women then can start their own coaching businesses, where we create this legacy of empowered, confident women. And something that I've been doing a lot of in terms of in-person work within the Derby community is I work with an organization called Community One. And the work that we do is really around empowering families, helping people that are less privileged, if you like, and really supporting them through our culturally specific programs and workshops in so many different ways.
Amazing. That's really wonderful work. Do you think that it's ever too late for somebody to come to you, though? Because, so many of us, whether it's burnout after, work or marriage or, years of just, being that sort of old self, do you feel that it's any time that they can come to you and they can still, have that transformative life at any stage and age?
Absolutely. It's never too late. The only thing that is required is the desire for change and that desire for growth. So I've had clients as young as 15, and I've worked with women in their 50s, and I still continue to do so. And the key thing there is the desire to see change and be willing to do whatever it takes to step into that version of themselves that they so wish to be.
That's really, really empowerment, actually. I love that. I think it's really important that you guys do actually follow Noshiela and her work, and especially just, learning all of these things. I mean, it all sort of like confidence really shows up in all phases and stages in life and all kind of fields. Whatever you're doing and whatever you need, it always means that you need something when it comes to being confident, because it really does build a person. It's part of your personality, it's part of your trait, it's part of your characteristics, it's part of you getting that next job, it's part of you getting something that you'd always have as an outcome or a goal. When it comes to also some of the confidence building as children, do you think that parents can kind of do that with them as well? We just have a few moments, so you can just quickly answer that, and then we have to finish.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's essential for parents to be equipped with certain techniques and a toolkit almost to be able to empower their children, because as parents we're always projecting our own experiences if we've not dealt with them. So I think that's the key.
You know what? It's been so great to have you. And inshallah, we hope to have you again. We love the show. We love everything that you said. I want to thank you so much for being with us, Noshiela. And inshallah, we will have another episode next week, same time, same place. I want to thank you all for watching, and especially Noshiela, our guest tonight. She's given us some amazing tips. Please do stay tuned for next week. Keep watching. We will see you.